Well, hello again YouTubers, welcome to part 3 of my Skysurfer build. Concentrating on the electrics now. I think I said in one of the other ones that they supplied very thin, very short bits of wire from the motor for you to connect up your speed controller. So obviously you've got to extend the lead from up here where the motor pod is, along here, down here to, well, I suppose you could call it the cockpit area. Very thin wires, as I say, so I have just soldered on some heavier duty cable so it meets up nicely with the speed controller, although it was quite tight getting the 3 pieces of wire along this piece of the fuselage. Anyway, I've done 2 of them and I've left one up, so you can see that I've soldered the wires together. Don't forget your heat shrink tubing before you put it on, and I've already shrunk that down as much as it'll go, which is a bit of a problem with the 2 different gauges of wire. So I'm about to pull that one down, then trim them to length and solder bullet connectors on the other end and the speed controller, and I'll show you some images of that. I can't really actually show you the soldering, but if you're into electric flight I'm sure you know how to solder. Okay, soldering the bullet connectors on. I expect this is out of focus due to the limitations of my little camera, but what I did was I held the female part of the bullet connector in a vise, small hand vise that I've got, and filled the area where the wire goes in with solder. The wire from the speed controller was already pre-tinned, and I remelted the solder and popped the wire in, made sure I had a good joint. Let the solder set before you let go of the wire. You can already see a small piece of heat shrink tubing on the wire. I put this on here to help make the difference between the different sizes up. So I'm now going to put another bit of heat shrink tubing over, shrink that down so that none of the connectors will touch and cause a short. And the end result looks something like that. So hopefully that's a bit better in focus. I do apologise. I will try and get my proper camera up and working sometime, but using the flip it's just so easy to download it to the computer rather than having to sort of edit it using the old digital mini DV tapes. Okay, yet another probably blurry and out of focus shot, but I'll put the male bullet connectors on the end of the motor. I always tend to put the female ones on the side where there's going to be any power through, so there's less chance of shorting it out. What's left now to do is solder up an XT60 connector to the battery side of the speed controller. When you connect these up to your speed controller, these 3 wires, if your motor runs in the wrong direction, apparently swap any 2 over and it will run in the right direction. So, bet it's wrong. Well, this is the female side of the XT60 connector, and this is a little hand device that I use because I also build etched railway locomotive kits, so useful for bending small parts and things. Where was I actually going with this? Oh, I think that was about it, the XT60. Obviously don't forget to get the positive and negative the right way around. They are actually marked on the pins, so don't forget black goes to negative, red to positive. If you're interested, this is a soldering iron I use. It's an Antex 690 SD. It's temperature controlled. I've just cooled it down for 350 so you can actually see the temperature coming down. It's over £100 when I bought it at a number of years ago, but I do think it is one of the best investments I've ever made on the side of my etched locomotive kit building. You can see the little LED above the DIN plug there flashing. That's just keeping when the power's applied to keep the tip warm. So, and that's the stand with a horrible bit of paper because my sponge has fallen apart. I need to get a new one. In fact, the whole base has been dropped and it's made of kind of like Bakelite material, and it is actually broken, so I must invest in a new one of those one day. Well, with impeccable time, the postman has just turned up with my first parcel from Hobby King in Hong Kong, I think it is, containing 2 of these zippy 3S2200 lipos. I want to say NiCad, so you can tell how old I am. NiCad is the word that's on my lips. So I've also fitted the propeller to the motor, so we could give it a test. Dare I do it live on camera in case smoke comes out of the speed controller? Anyway, we'll see. I apologise if you get the interference on here again from my transmitter, but I have actually just hooked up the speed controller to one of the batteries, and if I advance the throttle, hopefully... And it's even running the right way, first time. All I did off camera was plug the battery in. As you can see, the battery is still out of the plane. Well, that's about it for this episode. Next it's installing the battery, speed controller, and the receiver indeed, into the airframe itself. Stay tuned.